sport fans watching around the world, this is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Let's get straight into the episode.
Yeah, we heading for the sun. Charlie got my high, I ain't tripping for the funds. Yeah, I won't start, I ain't tripping, I'm a stun.
Alright y'all, today's a Monday and Mondays are for Docs. Thank you for clicking or tapping in that Start Today spew. And guys, you've read the title of the video. Very happy to be welcoming to the Doxcast for the very first time, Alexander Robibaro.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, bro. I can't believe my notes aren't ready, bro. I was so excited to actually look at them and refer to them. I had some actually good things written down for it, but
it's not uncommon for technology to play up and play around when I'm around, to be honest. And energy changes when things happen, not out of an ego thing, it just happened.
Yeah, damn. Well, I didn't know I had to blame you for it, but yeah, don't. Well, I did say to you off camera, but I'll give a shout out to Daniel Stoj, my friend who came on and did maybe episode like 91 or something like that. But yeah, I became familiar with you. I believe it might have been before that episode came out or before I watched it. Mm-hmm. But I know no matter what, it was because of the interaction you had with him that made me familiar with you. So yeah, shout out to Stoj for that. So thank you for that. But yeah, it was a very deep and powerful episode. I found that when I listened to that, you have a lot of life experience, I'll say that. And it was cool because I found a lot of relatability in it as well. And it made me think, how old are you, by the way?
I'll be 35 this year. 35,
okay. Well, I kind of thought to myself, if I went down a lot of my curiosity for a while, maybe I would have ended up in that interest or with that much experience, with a lot of the things. So to start the episode, I thought we'd start with your bio and what I know you from. And the biggest interest I have is breathwork, okay? So how did you get into breathwork in the first place?
Breathwork found me. So after my depression and anxiety, which was also brought on from my shoulder surgery and my divorce from my ex-wife, I forgot to learn how to breathe. I forgot to learn to know how to breathe in general. Anxiety, we only focus on real shallow breaths. We don't focus on bringing the breath down into our diaphragm. I got to a place where I wanted to die many times, and felt myself die many times. It got to a place where I was abusing drugs and alcohol for a very long time and tried killing myself with that. And I had to figure out there was something more to it. So I found breathwork. Just regulation breathwork. Box breathing was actually my first sort of breathwork that I found. And it was just to regulate my breath, just to bring oxygen back into my being and feel safe in myself. And then realizing that, it opened up the world. Dived into breath a little bit more, found holotropic breath work, found a couple of little things on YouTube, and they're like 10, 15 minute sort of things. Started with that, and it took me to places that were really uncomfortable to start with. But then I realized the more uncomfortable that I became, the clearer I felt. So I was doing multiple breathwork sessions a day, multiple a week, and within a couple of weeks, I was like, wow, this is completely life-changing. We forget how much our breath is actually so key to our being itself. We come into this life with a breath, we leave this life with a breath, and everything in between it is done with a breath. We just forget to consciously breathe. So with that, I learnt and figured out that I could regulate my nervous system and lose my anxiety and get through the day in situations just by breathing a little bit more, a little bit deeper, a little bit slower. And then when I felt certain emotions come up, because of the holotropic breath work, I learned to dive into those emotions instead of hiding from them, because every time I leant into it and felt it more, I could get rid of it. And I didn't understand at that point, but every time I did it, I felt good. So I just kept doing it.
Yeah, wow. And I know it found you, but was there anyone around you that was participating in this practice, or did you have any mentors, or was it just
It found me.
Yeah, wow.
So when I first got divorced from my ex-wife, I lived with a mate got into drugs and drinking and everything else as you would when you go through a real painful place. Got real heavy on that and abused it ridiculously. Moved back to mum's as that was a safety guard. I lost myself ridiculously after the divorce. And through that period, I saw my kids for, I think it was about 8 weeks or so once we first got separated. And then I didn't see them for close to 11 months.
Wow.
So within that period, without them, I didn't have anything. Tried to mask the pain that I felt with alcohol, drugs, benders and every sort, days on end. I could go without sleeping for days and completely feel fine. And then my anxiety obviously would go completely rampant and I wouldn't be able to leave the room for a week. So yeah, it really found me, to be honest. I guess the reason why I'm so passionate about what I do and how I do things is because I've done this on my own. I found everything on my own. I know how hard it is to do it all on your own. So to be that person that is able to be there for someone to reach out to resonate with, to know that they're not alone, I want to be that person. It's just where it came from. But breath found me.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. I do want to spend some time talking about that process that you went through with the suffering period of your life, especially the abuse on drugs and alcohol. I feel like that's something that so many people can, if they haven't already related to it, I'm sure at some point in their life they will. It seems to be, to me, a key ingredient to what makes most people who they are. If we were to take every individual person's life and jumble up the pieces when you look back from a kind of like a third person party, it's almost like everyone's got a similar story. We've just done all these different things in different points of our lives. So I feel like for everyone who has already gone through something, to now share that experience and what it is like is so beneficial to the world. It's key to sharing this experience of humanity. We need to kind of talk about it. So I always big ups to people who are open enough to talk about that kind of stuff, because so many people aren't.
We definitely need a lot more of it.
Yes. So obviously I understand that when you go through anything hardship-wise or traumatic or suffering induced, drugs and alcohol is a good vice. Everyone leans on it. It's not a beneficial tool. But it's definitely something that kind of does take away the pain temporarily. That's why so many people do it. Did you have any relation with substance, not even just abuse, just with substances in general before that period?
Yeah. I've got a very addictive personality. So through high school, I dabbled and tried weed and alcohol. Never anything really stuck. After school, smoked weed a bit, things like that. But then with training, so I was a bodybuilder since I was like 17. My first year of competing, I did naturally. And then when we were backstage, everyone was talking about the amount of gear that they were taking off season and this and that and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, well, fuck. If everyone's taking it off season, I might as well just do it for a whole year and do it on season and compete with the boys that were just happy to do
Yeah.
it. So I did. I took a good year off competing and used gear and got myself into a state that I was happy with. Competed with the IFBB for the first time and ended up placing third in New South Wales that year, sorry.
Wow. And how old were you? Sorry to cut you off.
18, 19.
Oh, wow. When you were competing?
Yeah.
Damn.
So I've done like 7 years of competing.
Yep.
My best season was first in New South Wales, third in Australia.
Wow.
Under 75s.
Wow.
Yeah, it was cool. Obviously, the ego plays a massive part in it. We find other ways to fill voids within our lives. Not that I look back at it and dismantle it and disregard it in any which way. It's a massive part of who I was and made me a part of this person that you can see today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think also physically, dude, like it's no question when I look at the posts you make, like you're in shape, all right?
Thank you.
You might not be taking it as competitive as you were back then, like stage-wise, but you're still in great shape. And I think being at a young age, building the foundation blocks for a physique is super beneficial for a man to do. When I was, I think maybe 7, I probably started training when I was, say, 15, 16, maybe 14. I can't remember what age I was, but it was very 14, 15-year-old training, some curls, maybe like 5 sets, and then like quick flex, and then you're out of there. It was around the same period where I was getting into fighting, and then at one point I got a very similar situation as you did, where people just started opening my eyes to steroid use and things like that. And I remember I did my first cycle very young as well. I probably did 2 or 3 cycles within the span of, say, 18 months, something like that. And I understand what that lifestyle is like, although I did not see it to a longevity like you did. But it is an addictive world. It really is an addictive world.
100%. I was on it on and off, and my off periods were not really off, to be quite honest, comfortably for like 4 or 5 years. You feel worse when you're not on it. You know what I mean? Like any sort of drug and addiction. Now with the understanding and not being on it, it's clearer within my body. I've still got the same ability. My strength is still exactly the same. My physique looks exact same that I was now when I was on the stage, and I don't have to kill myself to get there.
Yeah.
So it's a different energy playing around with the way that I train now as well. So.
Yeah. And I'm definitely going to get to a big portion of this. So we talk about energy and mindset and spirituality in general. Yeah. But to touch on that subject as well, I found that when my cycle ended, say for one of the times, it was at a time in my life where I did pick up a new bad addiction or habit where I was, intoxicated a lot, whether it be uppers or night outs, whatever that period was in my life. I honestly don't even remember what I was abusing instead, but I lost pretty much all the size very quickly. Happens to pretty much most of us.
And that's why I stopped partying the first time.
Yeah. I found that the reason why it was so hard to come off it, because obviously your masculine side is so heightened that when you come off and all your testosterone is now converting, even though it's artificial testosterone, it's converting to estrogen like it naturally does in that process. I felt feminine, very, very feminine, with no in touch to what that meant. And that was probably the hardest part for me, that overwhelming feeling of having no masculinity because you haven't been able to produce testosterone for so long. And now I remember watching like an ad on YouTube and just being like, bro, this is so sad. Like, I honestly felt like that,
Yeah,
that was a hard part for me. What did you find the hard parts of being on or off in those moments?
Being on was always just trying to, I guess, get better and better and better. Nothing was ever good enough. So I, again, used it as a building block because I wanted to be better. So I used that side of things as a positive. The negative, I guess the stupid things we do to ourselves while we're on it. I got really strong at one point and I was doing squats at 160, 170, whatever they were, and then dropped the weight to 70 kilos and was doing jump squats. Ended up tearing a few muscles in my neck. I was on the floor for 45 minutes and couldn't move.
Wow.
Silly things.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm going to try get myself to 100 kilos. And got to 97 and I was like, I can't walk up a set of stairs without being so tired and having to stand there for 10 minutes to regain my breath. I'm like, I had to stop. And then I look back at photos, I was like, wow, I look so depressed and so unhappy. It's like, where would you have to be to push yourself to that standard of your own being and see that you were trying to find happiness where you were so upset? And you don't see it while you're in there. But looking back at it, that would be, I guess, the biggest downsides.
Yeah.
I don't and never have really believed in roid rage and things like that. I love to eat, so the food consumption was always good.
Yeah.
Mindset with the roid rage and things like that, you're able to control everything, and I knew that from day one. With my training and what I've always believed and pushed with training is everything is in your mind. So if you can control that, you can control anything. The fact that you've got an elevated state of hormones running through your body, it doesn't mean you have to change the way you are. That was my biggest thing. I'd never changed who I was. Physically I did, but as a person I never changed, not once.
Yeah, that's cool. I reckon I could identify with that as well. I never really felt that roid rage or anything when it came to that. Like I just remember it was just cockiness and pride and ego. That was all that was flowing through my body during that time of my life.
All the time, 100%.
Yeah, I just felt good.
Yeah, definitely.
But you mentioned it right as well when you said that thing that you were chasing. it wasn't actually bringing you weren't getting closer to happiness, even though that was what you thought you were running towards. I never even had that idea. You blew my mind when you said that, because that's exactly what I was doing too. You actually look back and you think you don't even look happy, let alone healthy, and happy, they kind of work hand in hand in that regard.
Coincide.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And on that subject as well, I did have this written down as one of the first things I was going to ask you, but the all famous almost passage in a way now, mind, body, and spirit. What do you think when you hear those three?
All interconnected. Our body is our temple. Everything we put into it, no matter whether it's the food we consume, the liquids we put into it, the people we hang around, the environments that we're in, we're sitting in front of a computer all day, it changes our frequency and our vibration. So all of that means so much and more. What you get out, what you want to get out of yourself and this world is what you need to be able to put into your body. 100%. It all starts from the inside. Our internal state is a reflection of, or will be a reflection of our external world. If your world is chaotic, clean up your insides. And the second you clean up your insides, you'll find that your world will settle down.
I love this Jordan Peterson quote, and I say it on here all the time. It's actually one of the first chapters, if not chapter 1 from 12 Rules for Life. It says, if you want to fix the world, start by cleaning your room. And when I hear that, I just think of a clean room as a clean mind. I'm very particular about my car. I'm like OCD to a point where I allow it to get clustered and cluttered, but I get to a point where it's almost breaking point after about 5 or 6 days, and I have to go through with a fine-tooth comb and just clean it all out. And that clears up my mind for a brand new week starting Monday. Yeah. And I fully understand that your external environment is just a product of what's happening internally, and it's almost hard to grasp unless you've put those two dots together yourself. I don't know if anyone could ever tell me that and have it stick unless I came to that conclusion,
Definitely.
It's very, very, very tricky to be able to articulate to someone else. But in the form of breath work, you say that that's been almost the foundation, it was brought to you at a time where you felt like you needed it. And good analogy too. It's the first thing we do and it's the last thing we do. It really, really is. What does the practice of breath work look like? And I'm not just talking for anyone who wants to listen, just for me in general. I'm not saying I've never been curious, but I've never participated in any form of practice in what breath work looks like other than my unconscious decision of inhale, exhale. And then every now and then, if I get a little bit too fucked up, when manual breathing gets turned on, I have to think about inhale, exhale.
Oh, let's settle that one down a little bit.
Yeah. So what is the practice of breath work and what does it mean to you?
The regulation of our emotional state is pretty much what we can do with our breath. Breath work in general is just the term of breathing. I guess like anything they needed to put it into a category. How to explain? So if we were to dive into a session, it would obviously be a holotropic sort of session. So we'd be diving into releasing pain, traumas, things that are stuck in the body, energy, stagnant energy. Things that you may not even realize that you're holding on to, your pains and traumas, generational traumas. So there's many different types of breath that we can work into, and they will all activate different parts of our nervous system, which will allow our subconscious brain to go into different areas that we need to go into to be able to release those thoughts, feelings, and emotions. So I play around with two main styles of breath work. So I run my voice through breath work and speak to people while they run their session. But I also do 9D breath work. So it's done with a set of headsets and everything is guided to you through that. I found 9D and it ticked all of the boxes of everything that I wanted to facilitate and it was already there. Hence the reason why I got into it. So it uses a range of binaural beats, certain frequencies, subliminal messaging, guided breath work and meditation, different levels of stereo sounds and things like that. So it makes your left and right hands of your brain work at different times to take your subconscious brain into a different area. Holotropic breath work itself is like having a mushroom trip. Mm-hmm. It releases DMT within the system. So our body releases DMT within the system naturally. This just focuses and allows the body to release it in an enhanced state, so that way you're able to use it. It's what creates our creativity, our imagination, and everything else. It's where people don't understand and they get scared of the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that come up, which they will fight going into the breath and won't allow your breath to take you where it needs to go.
Man, that is so... It's so deep already, bro. It's honestly freaking me out thinking about it, but it's also sparking so much curiosity as well. So many parts of it. So first of all, I know that our body does create DMT. It's pretty much I think they say it's the first thing that gets released when we're born. It's also the last thing that gets released before we die. Yep. And the process of indulging in DMT recreationally or spiritually or for healing purposes, as in taking a substance through either ayahuasca or making it yourself, like some of my mates have done before, allegedly. It's you don't just consume it, you also have to block the natural part of your body that does block DMT from being a experience. Because I could be wrong, but I believe that because our body's always producing DMT, it's almost too much for us to be able to handle at all times, like a full-on hallucination DMT experience. Am I right at all when I say this?
Which is the why the body releases it in very, very small amounts in the way it does. So if it was to release it in the way that we would use it to trip out and things like that, we wouldn't be on this dimension.
Oh, we'd get nothing done.
Exactly. Yeah. So when we're able to dive into different dimensions of your own being, we're able to find where certain energies are attached to, emotions or things are gone to. And it's not the fact that you actually have to relive that situation. You might feel the emotion that comes through. And it's all about really surrendering and letting go. Mm-hmm. And that's the effect of life. The more you surrender and let go, the more life will give you what it needs to give you. Same thing with a trip.
That's so true, bro. Surrender is... I use that in my life to say yes to a lot of things. You also have to learn how to say no to a lot of things as well.
Many things, yeah.
Surrendering is a biblical definition as well as to how to get the most fulfillment out of life. That's just their transcription of it. And I find that when it comes to a bad trip, I fight it hard, and that just kicks it in every time.
And
every time.
And that's why you have a bad trip, because you're not surrendering to what is meant to come up. So with the amount of trips that I've given myself and gone through and things like that, I can honestly say I've had one half of a bad experience, and that's because I didn't want to feel what was coming up. I remember diving in this first time, and the first half an hour was beautiful. I felt all of everything coming through. The colors were beautiful. I do things very differently to most people. So it's like 2:00 in the morning. I'm underneath a blanket, blindfold on. So I have to go internal.
That's
I don't get distracted by anything external.
Wow.
So I'll feel everything that I need to feel. So first half hour I was diving in, colors were coming. I was diving through this vortex sort of thing. I remember my mum coming to me, and I was like, oh, I feel safe. It's okay. And then this abundance of emotion and feelings and things that I wasn't comfortable with came up. The more I fought it, the worse they became. It was probably what felt like hours that I was fighting it for. The second I had said to myself that it was okay to let it go, I was nauseous as hell. I was running back and forth to the bathroom. The moment I surrendered, I pretty much command the energy to leave my body. And the second I told it to leave, as soon as I said leave, the end of E, I threw up.
Wow.
And I was throwing up violently for like 15 minutes.
Wow.
But the second that finished, it was the most beautiful thing in the world. Again, you let go and surrender, everything will be given to you. It's when you fight anything in life, the trip, the things that are meant to come to you, they will show you the resistance, and the resistance will be given to you in many different ways.
The classes that you are involved in teaching wise, do you think everyone should participate in something like this?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. and I'm going to ask why I have the question of curiosity also from a little bit of a place of ease. No, not ease. What's the word opposing ease? Almost like confrontational, almost scared in a way.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I think I'm aware of what I don't like that I have to deal with in my own life. I believe I'm aware of all my own troubles and experiences and traumas, and I don't like going into them unless I'm already in the right mindset and I'm allowed to just like dip my toe in it for a little bit and see how it felt, and then almost get out of it and be like, not today kind of thing. What can someone get out of putting themselves through that experience? Does it change people? Even if you're someone like me who almost feels like, I'll go into it every now and then when I want to,
Life-changing, no matter if you were to do it once every couple of months, if you were to do it fortnightly, if you were to do it once a year. Again, the more you get out, the more you put in. Like training, it's all about repetitions. What I have to tell everybody and make sure everyone that sits with me and I hold space for is make sure you feel comfortable, because energetically you won't allow your body and your emotions to come out if you don't feel comfortable. So as long as you're in a comfortable environment, you feel comfortable with your facilitator, then your body will be in a state to be able to release. Where you say you're able to dip your toe in and things like that, if you've got someone there to tell you that it's safe to hold you through and to be there on the other end when you get through whatever you need to get through, people will literally just open to the opportunity because they haven't had someone to hold space for them. And that's the most beautiful part. It actually brings emotions. If you want to dive in, I've actually got an event tomorrow. Most welcome to come. We're releasing 5 trauma imprints. So it's actually a really deep one. So what people will essentially feel, no matter what the journey, is a space of freedom within their body, lightness, liberation, and with that, again, it changes their external reality really quickly. So when you're able to release certain feelings and emotions out of the body, you feel lighter. You feel like you're walking on clouds. The breath work itself might bring up things that you have been suppressing, realizing that there was something in your childhood that you didn't think was so bad, and that was the reason why you may have had abandonment issues your whole life. Could be as simple as one of your parents, whatever, saying no to you about buying a toy, turning around in the aisle and walking away. That creates abandonment. And if that's happened at a young age and that's embedded into your system, then you've got abandonment issues that you've never dealt with. And that will happen all the way through your life. So if you've just come to this realization that that is one of your imprints that you're holding on to, then you'll feel free. You'll feel liberated. You'll want to be able to dive in again and figure out what the next thing is that you can unlock and release and feel better for.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're definitely easing up the tension that I had in my chest when it came to being open to the idea of it. Because as an outsider looking at someone else's life, like say my friends or my family or other people, you can easily notice people's habits that they constantly get themselves involved in, whether it be in a different situation or a different circumstance. They're kind of following the same habits. And
life is a revolving door.
It really is, isn't it? And I am active so I have a psychologist that I like to speak to. I try to do it once a fortnight. Sometimes it gets pushed back a little bit more. And the things that kind of come up, and they usually only come because it's a safe environment. He's able to ask the right questions or just put me in a position in which I can talk to myself for long enough to be able to discover something. Mm-hmm. It's almost like damn, I can't believe I've been living my life on repeat, doing that one thing. And it all comes back to this one thing I was told no from. This one thing that I didn't get from a parent, or this one thing I didn't get from a crush, or whatever it is. And it's really is interesting to notice that. And it's very different because it's easy to notice when other people are living a life on repeat, but when it comes to me, I can't see that. Yeah. It's cool, man. And I think it's also a little bit scary too, because I find that in my life, if I was to go through something that could be traumatic or something that I would And I say could be traumatic because I mean, like, I've found a way to get over it and I don't hold much pressure against it anymore. As soon as I find a way to get over it, it's almost like I don't want to think about it ever again. And it's like, I feel better now, you know? It's fearful to go back into it. So what would be your suggestion to something like that?
So to touch on a few of those things, life will always give you the same lesson until you get over it. Plain and simple. So you need to understand the lesson, and then that lesson will stop repeating itself. The more it repeats itself, it's like thinking of yourself as an onion. The more lessons that it has to repeat, you're creating many layers over that one lesson that you now need to uncover and peel back to find the root reason for. The more we do it, the easier it becomes. It's less daunting in every which way. But then again, where you were saying before, where we can see other people repeating lessons and things like that, everybody is a reflection of you. So we live in this reality. And when I talk about it this way, I sound really crazy to most people.
Oh, well, I understand it. Trust me. Like, I know it's crazy because it is, but I actually get it.
We live in multiple realities. Think of our bodies. We're not flat. We're not 1D. We're 3D. So we have to be on at least 3 different planes energetically. You know what I mean? So everybody that we meet is a reflection of you at a state where you need to heal. So the triggers that people bring to you is something that you need to bring back into yourself and figure out why that trigger is there and why you're obviously triggered by it. And that person there will teach you that lesson, that blessing, and move on or be in your life. It's the same thing with relationships and stuff like this. It's the reason why we go back to that same vicious circle and things like that. It's because we haven't learned the lesson in that point, in that relationship, to get through it, to not have a repeat again.
Yeah. I never thought about it from that perspective, because I also do look at life like one consciousness, you know, in a very outside, without being too involved kind of mindset. I it's one of those things where I like dipping my toe in there and like exploring the possibility that we are all sharing a projection of each other onto each other at the same time. I find that I'm a very addictive kind of person like yourself as well. I definitely resonated when you said that. When I indulge in anything, it becomes my entire existence, and 100%. I can't find a way to get out of it until I decide no. So in my personal life, I've decided to take no to any substances that can alter my consciousness at all, like drugs or alcohol or anything like that, because whenever I do start getting back into anything, it's just something that I can't get out of. So it's this kind of similar thing when it comes to any kind of energetic thought process or spiritual or religious or anything like this. I like dipping my toe in, but it freaks me out that commitment to such a thing, you know?
Commitment is hard in many levels because we have issues being able to commit to things. That uncomfortableness is the fact that your body wants to know what's on the other side. Like a storm, it's only chaotic while it's happening, then the beauty of whatever else is on the other side. So where your body and your mind and your emotional state is curious and wants to dabble and dip your toes, allow it to express itself. Because whether or not, again, the lesson lasts 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 10 years, it will pass. It will play its point in your life, and it will move on. Same way people come into your life and move out of your life, and friendships happen and they move on and they fizzle out and vibrate completely out. It's like, oh, that person, I haven't even really spoken to them anymore. It's like your level of consciousness and vibration is up here. If they haven't done work to keep up with you to get to this point, then they're on a different plane now. And that's a hard one to realize, especially when it happens with people that are very close to you. So I'll never stop upgrading my frequency and my vibration and working to being the best version of myself in every which way. It gets to the point now where I can walk into a room and people will pack up and leave that room because my energy is too much for them. And that's a lot when it's friends and family and things like that, and only for the fact that I'm always here to help. You know what I mean? If the fact that my energy is so up here and it irates your demons and things like this, then let's talk about your demons. Let's get through it.
Yeah.
yes, it may be uncomfortable and things like that, but learning to understand why that demon makes you uncomfortable and makes you feel that way will disappear that demon. You don't have to hold on to it anymore. That's an anxious thought. It's only because you don't understand why you're feeling that way.
That makes me think of something that I've been thinking of a lot lately. And I haven't known if I wanted to admit it to be something that I believe or not, but that's a good metaphor to explain it. So I'm going to say that it is something that I believe now. And that's, I think that self-development is a lonely pursuit. You know,
100%.
it's very lonely. Like, I've been on the journey of self-development, I'd say probably for, I'd say 2.5, 3 years, but definitely 2 years I've been doing it. And the circle gets smaller every time. Like,
It's better when it gets smaller.
it's better in a way, I agree, because things are elevating in that field. But the way that people come in and out of your life, I did hear this quote that said that not everyone is meant to be in your life forever. Some people are just there like boosters on a rocket. They fall off at a certain altitude, not because they're not good enough, just because they're not meant to be going where you're going.
100%.
And I find that, like, when I had a partner at one point in my life, and she would want to throw this massive party all the time. And it's something that I enjoyed doing back in the day as well. And then she might get butt hurt, and I understood it because I'd been through that period of my life already where not everyone came. And instead of having 250 people come, if you're lucky, 100 people come. And realistically, 100 people is a lot of people to come to a party, you know.
Yeah.
But then as time goes on, it becomes 50 people, and then it becomes 40 people, and it becomes 30 people, and then 10 of those people start leaving before 6 p.m. and then all of a sudden there's only 5 people that are hanging out for the rest of the night. And that's just a part of life. But what I was trying to explain to her is that think about the people you are inviting. You're inviting everyone you know, but not everyone that you know is actually in your life for partying. Like, I realized at a certain point in my life, I had people in my life that were in my life because of gym. I had people in my life that were in my life because of work, and people that were in my life because of partying.
100%.
And then trying to combine all these worlds together is never going to work out, because even though I care about all these people, they're only in my life situationally and circumstantially, which is a tough pill to swallow, you know?
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of friends, a lot of phases in my life for that exact reason. I opened my first gym when I was 21. And then a lot of friends signed up, or they didn't even sign up. They trained at my gym. It was free membership. They were best friends. They were there for everything. The second the gym disappeared, they disappeared.
Yeah.
So you realize who your true friends are, the ones that stick around when you really need them, and the ones that up and go when things get tough. Protecting your energy is not a crime. And to be able to limit how much you give to people and who you give it to is the best thing you can do. Not to say you can't go be social and things like that. I run group events and things like that. So I love being out and about, but I'm very cautious of who takes and it absorbs my energy, because on an energetic state, the more we open up ourselves to anything and the environment that we're in, we create vulnerabilities, and that's where most people start to hide from. But being in a vulnerable state for most people, which is what makes them uncomfortable, will keep them away. I like my vulnerable state with my close people, and my energy is tight, very tight, and the people that I surround myself with are family. We're not related by blood in any which way, but we are family, 100%.
And it's that wording of true friends, which is a very hard thing to understand, especially for me. The more I get older, the more I try and dive into self-development and what it means to be true to yourself. What does that mean to have true friends? That just means friends that are there to help you be true to yourself. So it's those people who aren't necessarily situation and circumstantially based, is are there because of a connection of human contact outside of gym or outside of work or outside of partying. It's the friend that you can call and have that conversation with for 2 hours that you haven't seen in 2 years.
It's an energetic connection.
It's crazy, because in a way I don't know how to define what that friend is to me situationally and circumstantially, because what is it that makes some people stay in your life if it's not from a place of environment, you know, if it's not from a place of indulging, or if it's not in a place of hobbies or interest. I don't understand how to choose and how to give out my energy to the right people, because
learn to listen to yourself more is the biggest thing. So those friends that when you meet them for the first time, it's like, I feel like I've met you forever. That person's meant to be around. Whether, again, it's in this lifetime, meant to teach you a lesson or whatever the case may be. That person's there to teach you something, or you've spent past lives with. To where we give our energy and understand who and how, feel into how your energy feels when you're with people. So if you're with a certain group of people and when you leave your energy is completely drained, then they're sucking the life out of you, literally. But if you're with a group of people that when you leave you feel uplifted and joyous, they're filling your cup. They're the people that you should be around a little bit more. And then as we do this and start to listen to ourselves a little bit more, we tap into our intuition. All of these things will make itself very apparent. Life will get rid of the people that aren't meant to be there just the way it does, and will bring in the people that are meant to be in your life. I've only recently moved back into Sydney, so I was living up the coast, mid-coast, on my dad's property for the last 2.5, 3 years or whatever it's been. It's only been 6 months that we've been moving back. My biggest fear moving back was I'm a completely different person. It's like, how am I meant to fit in back with the boys that I used to hang out with? I don't dress the same way. I don't speak anything the same way that they used to. I don't drink. I've been a year sober. Last week was my anniversary.
Good work.
Thank you. That was my hardest vice to give up. But yeah, as soon as I moved back, within days, I found home. Temple of Mastery. I work out of it now. Everyone there is home. It is family. Again, when we have to move and create changes in our life and upgrade our frequency, life will take away the people that aren't meant to be in your life and will put in your life the people that are meant to be there. And it's a very clear indication. I moved here and found everything that I was meant to be in.
That's beautiful, man, because I think that's a lot of fear that a lot of people have when it comes to trying to evolve as a person. Once you're aware that you're gonna have to start cutting people out, I'm an addict for information, right? So all I do 24/7 is consume content in podcast form. It's the best way for me to do it.
Yep.
Sometimes I binge on TV shows and shit as well, but people ask me what am I listening to lately. It's either Alex Hormozi, Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan. It's these kind of individuals, and everyone says that there's an uncomfortable stage that everyone great had to go through, where you lost everyone that was in your life that you held close to you, as in like your friends or your circle, your community, and you haven't yet changed enough to fit into a new group of people. It's an awkward, uncomfortable stage.
It's a lonely point.
That's a lonely point, man, and that's a scary point. Like it's almost like you don't want to let go of the people in your life because I get it. You don't want to let go of them because you care for them as well. You like having them, but realistically, a lot of the time it can come from an egotistical place of wanting people to be in your life, not just wanting to be in other people's lives.
100%.
And then if you were to let go and start again, it's almost like, where's the promise? Where's the proof? How do I know I'm stepping into something that's going to have more people there when I leave this room, you know?
Definitely.
And I don't mean it from a place anyway, my mates who are listening, that I want to leave my friendship circles. I've actually gone through those steps myself already, and I've had to cut people out, and I've had to develop enough into which people are no longer on my level. And I don't mean it from a place as in like I'm better than anyone. It's just my level now is sitting on a different playing field to where their level is.
Frequency.
Yeah, I'm somewhere else. I'm not somewhere that they might even think's better. I'm just somewhere else. So
That's their journey, and this is yours. Where we have to let go, it's pretty much like losing a life. And we have to go through a grieving process, mourn that loss and things like that, understand it. It's all an emotional, energetic attachment. If you want to upgrade yourself and move yourself higher, then there's facets of your life that can't come with you. The higher we go in vibration and frequency, the less we hold on to. And we realize that it's very simple to have very little and be extremely happy. Not to say that you need or can't have lots of friends and things like that, but you will have the friends that mean something to you, that will force you to upgrade your life and add value instead of wanting things from you constantly. It's a give and take thing. If your cup is full, you can give to everyone else. If your cup is not full and everyone else is taking from you, what have you got left for yourself?
That's true. I find that some people as well, I'm definitely not going to be saying any names, but like I've met people in my life who are almost like there to drag you down, not just keep you in the place you are. They're not even there to help you. They're there to stop you from moving forward. And it's not in a position now where it's like, I want to be able to take you with me. It's almost in a position where it's like, you won't let me go any higher, you know? And that's a tough pill to swallow, and that's a hard reality to come to terms with. And from your perspective, do you think that that's our own personal journeys? Is that something that everyone's going to have to go through? Or, like, is it a good thing that we have that in our lives, or how do you think of it?
We're going to have to go through it in every facet of our life. As you said, people won't want you to upgrade, and that's because they can't upgrade themselves. They don't want you to be better because they can't be better. You being better shows them that they've got things to work on and move through and things like that. The easiest way for them to stay comfortable and not work through it is to bring everybody else around them down. First thing I would do is be getting rid of those people out of my life, understanding from where I am now.
When you say that, I'm sorry to cut you off. I do this a lot. I
You're
apologize
right.
in advance about 20 times. Okay?
All good.
When I hear a gem, I have to stop on it. But I've made that decision. I've done those things. It's a tough pill to swallow because of a place of empathy. It's almost like I feel bad that I have to do this, but I have to do this in order to continue going forward. You've got the experience. You're older than me or more wiser than me. You've had to probably do it a few more times than me.
Yep.
Does that feeling change, or does that feeling stay the same?
Oh, you still always feel bad, but you get over it so much quicker because you realize, again, letting go of the things that hold you back only means that you're able to elevate even quicker. Detachment is never easy. It happens on multiple levels with multiple things in different ways. So if you want to be better, then you're always going to be faced with challenges, no matter how it is, to make your life better, to give you the knowledge, the wisdom, and the tools to force yourself to be at that level. So if you've manifested and put into reality, into your imagination that this certain reality is there for you and this is what you've now created, if you've got people energetically that can't even be at that level with you, then life's going to create circumstances and situations for those people to disappear. If you fight it and want those people to stay there, then you're only slowing down your process of being where you want to be. Whether or not it comes from empathy and things like this, the way that I get through it so much easier is I want to be better.
Yeah.
I always want to be better. What do I have to do? Pain and suffering is pain and suffering. I've died multiple times in this reality. Like, I've put that much coke in my system that I was unconscious on the floor for a very long time. My body was meant to be dead multiple times over. Energetically, I felt my body die. And I felt timelines of me die. And I watched timelines of me die. It's can't be harder than that. It can't be harder than not seeing my kids for X amount of time, and it can't be harder than the shit I've already been through, to be quite honest. I'm sure you've lost other friends and things like that. I'm sure you've lost loved ones or a pet. I'm sure you've gone through things that are a lot harder than wanting to upgrade your life and be better than having to let go of something or someone that's stopping you.
Yeah, you're right, definitely. That's a good perspective look on it as well. I've been through worse, you know. I've made it out of worse, and I've been in a better position because of it. So what's a little tiny feeling of pain or suffering going to do?
Fear.
Just
Fear
gonna
is
make,
always the biggest thing that's going to
make
stop
me that
us.
little bit better, you know. I like the way you said it as well. You said that when you manifest something into your imagination to be the life that you want to be inside of, life will give you the situations in which people will disappear. Okay. Now that is a bigger blanket term than what I was just talking about when it comes to having to cut people out of your life, because now people are being removed from your life without your control sometimes. And that is a good understanding that can only be learnt through experience. You'll never be able to tell someone who is in the middle of either a breakup, a divorce like you have gone through, or losing a loved one, and have to explain to them, trust me, this is because it was the only way it was meant to happen. You know, you can't,
100%.
you're never going to be able to explain that to someone. But it's nice to be able to reflect back on and realize that, like, it was meant to happen for a reason. You know,
Everything's always meant to happen for a reason. There's no coincidences in this life, and everything is there to teach you a lesson. Yes, it comes from years of diving into this sort of work and understanding emotional states and lessons of life, and more so energy. Energy is absolutely everything. So it will find its way to repeat itself and bring itself or its way around. Like we were saying before, we've gone through a hell of a lot and gone through worse and things like that. I can only see better. And if life has to create circumstances and situations for me to upgrade, then now, well, people would normally look and sit in and wallow in, it's like the why me, why me, why me. You've got to change the perspective. It's why not me? Because you're now at a point where you're strong enough mentally, physically, emotionally to push yourself to that next level. I look at challenges as not a problem, but as an advantage to move forward. It's like, okay, life's thrown all of these situations and circumstances at me. What am I meant to learn out of it? How am I meant to move forward through this and take it to be a positive? Transmute it, be an alchemist. And understand that, again, with any troublesome area situation, there's always going to be better. Going through it right now. The last 6 weeks have been really, really crazy. But I looked at it and found all the positive blessings. With how hard it is to understand the thoughts and things that have come up with it, the emotions that have come up with it. It's been a lot to deal with. But it's now put me in a position, in a situation that life is now going to change dramatically again and upgrade itself because of these changes that are made. Surrender to the flow that the situation is what it is. I can't change that. I can just let it be and move with it.
Yeah. That's so dope, man. And I do this a lot in my own personal life too. I like, for a portion of my life, I consider myself to be Christian. So I have a lot of biblical metaphors to relate a lot of things to. And it says in one of the passages, I don't know which one at all, but it says that God will not give you something that you didn't need to endure to get to where you want it. If you pray for something, God can't just give it to you. It says that God will give you the lessons you need to go through in order to become the person.
That's exactly right.
Someone recently, one of my mentors in life at a certain point, Josh, came on and told me that if you ask for $20 million from the universe, it's just going to send you broke $20 million later. But if you ask life to teach you what it's like to be someone who can withhold $20 million, it'll put you through the lessons and the business tricks and the tips and stuff to become someone who's worth 20 million. 100%. Because you'll just spend it otherwise.
Our words have so much power, and this is where people don't understand that we create our reality. So I was Catholic growing up. I've always believed in God, still believe there's God. But my perception and belief in God is completely changed. So when the first part of my divorce and things like that happened, I had to dive into faith and realize that things were just going to be okay. Everything was going to be okay. And I don't know how, but everything was going to be okay. I've always had a spiritual side of me, but I hid that away at a young age. When it came to training and ego and things like that and blah, 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 obviously bodybuilding and spirituality don't mix. So
traditionally, yeah.
Yeah. So it was one part. My ex-wife doesn't have a faith in any which way. So again, that was stripped out of my life, my life in that certain situation as well. So when I learnt to embark and have faith again, believe straight into God and things like that, so I went back to my roots. Now with more of an understanding, and this doesn't come from an ego point in any which way, I am God. You are God. We are the co-creators of our reality. We can manifest anything into our life the same way he does and creates everything in our life. So to make yourself feel anything less than a God, you're only diminishing your own power. You are God. I am God. We are gods. We are emperors. We are generals. We are everything. We are the most powerful beings in the world. We have to feel it. We have to know it. Because as we manifest it and envision it, we have to be at that level in every which way to be able to put ourselves there. Co-create. You can have whatever you want in this life as long as you be able to put the time and the effort and the work in to get it.
I love the way you said co-create too, because you are co-creating your existence. In my belief, I'm not saying I know this to be factual or trying to argue your point. In my belief system, we are co-creating the lives we want to live by bringing things into fruition, manifesting things, working towards things, allowing things to come to you and deciphering the bullshit from the bad. And you also have a leaning shoulder to lean on, which is something more powerful than us, which is a higher level of consciousness, 100%. Which is a shared vision of life. You know, like, yes, I believe it too. We are God. But we are also sharing the experience with something even bigger again. You know, that's insane to me.
Definitely. And to put that in more of a perspective and blow your mind a little bit more, our God that we believe in at that higher perspective and that higher frequency vibration is you on that level. You just haven't got there yet.
Fuck. Damn. Yeah, you did. When you said you blow my mind, I was like, my mind's been blown before. Yeah, that blew my mind.
That's the reason why you look up to it.
Wow.
You envision yourself to be that person. So everything emotionally, spiritually, energetically, you put into wanting to envision this person that you want to be and have as a being. It's you at your highest frequency. You have to adore yourself.
That's crazy.
Different dimensions.
Yeah, I definitely want to continue down this path and dive deeper into an energetical side of it. But I don't want to get off the topic as well when it comes to the emotional side of suffering and healing, when it comes to breathwork and things like this. You did mention trauma and generational trauma as well. I actually noticed that it was actually your first ever post on your second Instagram page on Air It Out Breathwork. Yeah. It said something along the lines, I'm going to paraphrase it, but generational trauma can be broken by the pursuit of self-healing, you know? And I'm curious, what does that even mean? I can try and guess, but I'm not really sure what you mean by that.
So like life lessons will repeat themselves. If we don't deal with it, our kids will have to deal with it. If they don't know how to deal with it, their kids will deal with it. And that will continue to go on and on and on and on, hence the generations. So I've dealt with a lot of shit in my life. My parents got divorced at a young age. I put myself into a position to feel like I was the man of the house at a very young age. Excuse me. Obviously couldn't support financially, obviously, and things like that at a young age. But emotionally, I thought a man was meant to be hard and stern and not feel emotions. So at a very young age, I learned to block off a lot of shit. I remember I cried in watching Free Willy at the end when he jumped over the wall. And my mum looked at me and she's like, oh, you're going to be so sensitive. And that still resonates and rings bells in my head. The generational side of things. So the things that I've been through childhood. So I was, one thing I've actually never really spoken about, obviously needs to come up. I was sexually abused as a kid from a very close family friend of ours, which was hard, obviously, to deal with. It sort of got dealt with then. And then I guess, swept under the rug like a lot of things does, and you just learn to deal with it and suppress the emotions that come with it. Excuse me. So generational things, they will continue to happen. I don't want my kids to deal with any of the pain and suffering that I've gone through on any level, to be quite honest. And obviously they've got their own journey and they'll learn their own ways and things like that. But if I can break generational things, I know that certain things that I've gone through have happened to parents, grandparents, and things. I don't know how far back, but those sort of things have gone backwards. Now, if we go back to generations and know where our ancestral lineage comes from, we've gone through wars, we've gone through suffering, we've gone through poverties, we've gone through many different things. We've never understood the emotional state of our being to release those things. So, again, we energetically hold on to things that we don't even know of. Our belly button is our life force energy. So we receive nutrients, information, and everything like that from our mother while we're in the womb. So while we're receiving nutrients and all this information, we're also receiving the pain, the suffering, the generational shit that we don't need. But it also brings up the fact that what our parents go through while they're pregnant is a massive understanding to why we think and feel and understand our emotions the way we did. And we do. So if they were going through arguments, for instance, and then I just use it for examples and such. If your parents were going and having an argument and your mum accepted something that she shouldn't accept, central nervous system wise, it teaches your body in the baby in the womb that it's okay to be treated this way and it's okay to feel safe in this way and just, it's normal. You know what I mean? So when you come out into this world, you've already got all these imprints that being in an unsafe environment and not being able to voice yourself the right way is normal. Mm. So you don't even know how to. How many times I remember, and do it to my kids when they were growing up, and admittedly, when they're crying, what are you crying about? You don't need to cry. Don't cry. Stop crying. It's an expression of emotion. Something's out. They can't help it. You know what I mean? So these little phrases that we give to ourselves and give to our kids and things like that, they're all creating layers and impressions in ourselves that we're not meant to feel an emotion, or we're meant to hide an emotion. We're meant to feel that emotion. We're meant to know why we've got it and understand it, embrace it. The more we can feel that emotion and understand where it comes from and things like that, we can release it. And that's where the releasing pains and traumas and generational things come from. You'll feel things disappear out of your body that you didn't even know you held on to. But then you might also realize that you could be holding on to resentment from your dad from something that happened really small and minute, but it was like, fuck, that was the reason why I've been so angry all the time and I haven't worked out why. Now the fact that you've allowed yourself to tap into your subconscious brain by regulating your nervous system and tapping into it that way, you can now figure out the shit that your brain won't process. One of the things that came up to me throughout the last few weeks with psychology and therapy sessions and stuff like this is therapy. They talk about things. They'll make you understand it on a mental state. So we can talk about it, verbalize it and things like that. The energy hasn't moved from your body. If we don't move that energy from the body, how are we meant to understand that it can be released? So we've got many points in our body that hold trauma, pain, suffering, in many different ways for many different reasons. So I could literally poke my fingers into your hip flexors, hold it for X amount of time, run energy into that area, and you'll start crying.
That's fucked up.
And you won't know why. But you'll have this flurry of emotions come through your body and you're like, fuck, where is this coming from? I feel angry. Then it changes from anger to compassion to empathy to love, and you'll cry. And then you'll be like, fuck, my dad did something. He's never protected me, or my mum's never really looked after me the right way, or whatever the case may be. You'll come up because you've released the energy that is stagnant in that point in your body, and you've allowed your body to express it and feel it. tightness in the body, if you want to think of it that way, is energetic blocks. The body's not moving energy from the tips of your toes to the tips of our fingers to the roof of our head, not free-flowingly. So where you've got tightness and things like that, it's your body talking to you to address the issues. Every part of our body is a reason or has a reason and a part of our life, trauma response-wise, pain, suffering, that we hold on to. Base chakra, root chakra sort of stuff, sexual issues and things like that through our sacral, feelings of worth and safety and things like that through our throat, not being able to express yourself, your heart chakra, lots of different things. So like, again, energetically, we can poke and release lots of different areas, and I can make you feel things that you've never felt before. To make anybody cry is very common on the table with me. Not that I have to do anything bad or hurt them in any which way. It's just I'll find where the energy is stuck in the body. And as crazy as it sounds, when I'm in a session and I tap into the person energetically, their body will talk to me. So if I've got my fingers in a certain space or hovering around the energy that needs to be done, I will get messages, not precise messages, but ballpark sort of figure things. So that way they can understand the thought processes and emotions that are coming through to realize where in their life it was maybe stemmed from. And they're big. They're big. I've had people literally cry for 5 seconds and then sound like an exorcism and scream out of the tops of their lungs, and then after that scream go into laughter and giddiness. You know what I mean? It's a complete process. You've got to feel it to heal it.
That's crazy, dude. I know it sounds crazy to a lot of people because I've got that side of my mind of disbelief in a lot of things, but I also do understand it because I can see that scientifically speaking, they also say that when you have pain in your neck, you're usually stressed. Now, that's an easy example because stress is an emotion, but it's also a physical symptom at the same time. So if emotions can be displayed physically, like when you are feeling nervous or excited, you have butterflies or you have sweaty palms, like it's clear that emotions do play in our physical symptoms as well. When you mentioned the generational trauma that can be healed, which was a nice insight to open my mind as well, I did read a study, I think it was the end of last year, it didn't have any exact scientific basis, but it did have enough bias study of subjects to be like, we find that when people are pregnant or even about to be the male who gives off the semen as well, whatever mindset they have in their life is the same mindset the child's going to grow up, even if the parents have grown up to be a completely different individual, they've elevated their spirits 1,000x. The point of conception is what usually creates the early adolescence of a child. 100%. And that makes sense, I guess, and I've never had this thought before, but a DNA is a exact code given to a person that cannot be replicated by anyone else. Like it's DNA, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure DNA is individually specific.
Definitely.
So then that means that whatever experiences our ancestors have always gone through they are being passed on through our parents. And I believe this because I know that it's been hundreds of thousands of years of human existence and it's a survival of the fittest. So me today is the most capable, idealistic survivor of the entire planet's ecosystem through war, through famine, through sickness, through plague. And it's a good ego boost for me. It makes me feel good about myself, but I am a representative example of the strongest of the strongest, the capable of the most capable, you know? And that's exactly like every single person alive today.
Definitely.
And I guess that's the only way I've looked at it, the most survivalist of the people, but it's also every experience and emotion they've ever gone through and how it's affected their nervous system now. That is now a code that's almost being printed off to me. So that's kind of what my DNA is.
That's exactly what it is.
I always thought of it as a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a compound of, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but almost like a scientific explanation to every bloodline you've had biologically. That's the word I'm looking for, biologically. But it really is an emotional response and a life experience system to do with the physical symptoms that have been caused through the emotional responses, you know, and I am just the next in line to have to deal with all their bullshit.
And if you don't do it, your kids will have to do it.
Yeah. And that's exciting because it's the strongest of the strongest. So if we are the ancestors of the best, it means that we are all capable of dealing with anything.
100%. So now when you say that, why would you not put everything in your power to be the best version of yourself now? So if that means you've got to deal with the pain and trauma, why wouldn't you do it? You got to step up to proving your ancestors right. You are the best at it. Be the best at it. You know what I mean? Like you had said earlier, whatever I put my mind to, I need to sort of be the best at. I don't care whether or not I've got #1 status or whatever, but I need to be the best in my field. I own gyms. I did the bodybuilding side of things. I was a personal trainer, a mentor. I did really, really well with that. I've had clothing lines. I did well with that. Now being in this space, it's taken off and elevated really, really quickly. The more work we do within ourselves and clear the energy, the more space we've got in life to give you what you need. So if you want more from life, do more with yourself. Everything starts with you. And what you want out of life, do for you. Plain and simple, because life won't give it to you unless you do the work for yourself.
And it's that breaking that generational trauma as well that is actually probably what I believe to be the biggest motivation, because one thing I've been thinking of for the past year or so is that it's a very odd feeling to want to do things for others if we are a survivalistic species. You know, the act of service is the most fulfilling feeling, in my opinion, when it comes. Everyone loves giving presents at Christmas. The more thought you put into how much someone's going to like it, the better you feel because they feel better. Like to me, that's a weird thing that I experience.
Because you've understood them on an energetic state. The more we give in to others is because you're giving them the things that you've missed out on, things that you don't feel, things like that, things that we lack. Instead of giving it to ourselves, we normally, again, people in our lives will be a reflection of the things that we need to work on, the things that you need to do for you. So that person, what their needs and things are, is really what you need to be thinking and what your needs are. A lot of it comes back to our inner child and working with our inner child, nurturing that little kid. Think about what that little kid would want and how it would feel when certain situations and circumstances happen. Today alone, I was shopping and sort of bouncing around the shops and floating and whatnot. Then I had to go home and jumped on the trampoline for 10, 15 minutes and just laid there, soaked up some sun. And it's like, you need to nurture your inner child every now and then. The way that I go about most situations and things now is not really about how I think and feel sometimes with things, because obviously my capacity to understand things is different to most. Again, not from an ego place. But I will think about how it would make my kids feel. Would they be happy to receive that sort of information in that way? Would they be upset? Would they have to shy away from their emotions and feelings? Or would it be able to give them the strengths? Same way that I proceed into any sort of conversation and interaction with people. It's not that I shy away or not be raw and authentic with what needs to be said. I might lead a question or a statement into saying something that makes them think a little bit more and creates the understanding for themselves, or puts them in a situation where they now have to make the understanding and realizations and have the awareness and consciousness for it. And that's growth. Because, again, what I need for me is what others need. So if I can teach people to do that, it only gives back to me. Our environment is better off when everyone's doing the same thing at the same level.
You're right. And I did mention a Jordan Peterson quote before, but I'm going to do it again because there's a lot of them floating around my head. But he says that the best way to look after yourself a lot of the time is to pretend you're caring for someone else. So an easy example that he referenced is that when you go to the doctor says take this medication twice a day. A lot of people kind of miss it, forget it. You know, it's not something naturally spread across the masses, something that is at the frontier of our thought process. But if you take your pet to the vet and you suddenly say, what's wrong with my pet? And they say, oh, it needs this medication, make sure it gets it twice a day. You're going to put way more thought process into that. So in order to know that by diving deep into your emotions and feeling what you have to feel and heal from them is actually going to be beneficial to the next generation of our own offspring, it's probably my biggest motivator to want to start to do something like this moving forward, you know, because I've been thinking a lot about what my 20s are at this point in my life. I'm 25 now, and I'm pretty sure my 20s are just prep for my 30s. And that sounds very easy to understand because it's realistically what it is, not theoretical. But I think that I'm just getting ready to have kids myself. I think I'm putting myself through the test to be able to be the best version of myself. And it's not even for me, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's for when I take me and I duplicate it. You know?
100%. 100%. And with all of that, the work that I do, obviously, I've done it to make my life in this reality so much better. And in doing so, it makes my life, my kids' life so much better. But when we're able to openly express and show, and this is the reason why I also do it and show it on social media the way that I do, that it is okay to feel, it's okay to cry, it's okay to be a man and not be okay, and it's okay to ask for help and all these certain things. When we do it for ourselves, it gives permission for others to be able to do it for themselves. They feel safe enough to be able to do it for themselves because they've seen you do it. The more I do for me, it gives encouragement and confidence for others to be able to do it for themselves. That's the biggest thing.
I couldn't agree with that anymore because I hate that quote. I say it on the podcast all the time. Sorry, boys who listen every week. I say it again, but I hate that point that you can't help someone who doesn't want to help themselves. I don't like it. I don't want to agree with it. I understand it for what it is, but I'm looking for a secret around it. And the secret I've discovered is that you can help others by being the best version of yourself, because now you're an example to a life that can be lived better than the life they are living.
100%.
And yeah, it is beneficial for the entire world. I'm a big advocate for anyone to post what's going on their social medias. I think everyone should be doing it, especially if it's coming from a place of positivity and actual self-improvement and things like this too, because you're just inviting others to experience what it's like to feel better. You know?
The more raw and authentic you can be, the better it is for yourself and for everybody else around you. Being a man, obviously, in this world, we've been told by society that we can't feel things, we need to be leaders, we need to be strong, we can't cry and this and that and blah, blah, blah. You are more of a man, in my eyes, if you can be vulnerable than have to hide your emotions. I'll hold you no matter what, keep you safe and protected and let you feel everything you need to feel. But you are more of a man the more vulnerable you become.
That's a crazy, very widely accepted, yet very polarized opinion. And I agree with it, and I also disagree with it in a way as well. Like, I think that it makes sense, but it's also, again, I guess I'm coming from a place of fear. I say it, and I'm going to be open about it as well. In my personal life, every time I've ever become vulnerable in front of a partner, that relationship's done from that day forward. It's just,
it wasn't meant to teach you anything more.
Yeah, I suppose, but the lesson I feel like I learned from it was like, keep it to yourself, you know, and I know that's not the right thing to do or say because I feel that it's not, you know, realistically, but I've kind of built my own system in my head now that's like, no matter what the world gives me, don't let it faze me until I have time to reflect on it later. You know, don't act emotionally, don't act reactively, whether it be through, even if I've got to be the deepest, most harshest reality of it is grief, right? When I experience grief, don't let anyone see it. Like it's because it's through those moments of letting other people see it in moments like grief that I feel like every relationship has took its turning point, you know? So I think we should feel it as men, and maybe as men towards each other, I'm a big advocate for, but I don't know necessarily if in my life I'm ready to accept that it's something that I'm willing to share with a woman, You know?
Because the woman is not on a space energetically to receive the information. So you got to remember the other person receiving the information can only receive it from their level and understanding and perception of where they're at. So we get into relationships and have friendships and all these other things because obviously we're looking for something to complete us. The reason why ones don't work is because we've looked for that person to fill a void. That person has filled the void and made you feel something that you needed, but has not connected with you on any other level. You've just filled the gap of whatever it is in your point in your life that you needed to work through. Instead of working through it, you filled it up and got someone else to give you that emotion instead. So when I say be vulnerable, it's always better to be vulnerable. It's depending on the person receiving the information if they can take what you've got to say. Not everyone will be at a space where they can understand what you've got. They've got their own dramas and demons and things to be able to go through. But again, to find a mentor or whatever it is to be able to hold space with and talk these things through, whether or not it's your personal life, relationships, business, things and that, everything is an energy. And people need to understand it from different levels. When it's not received from the other person the right way, like you were saying, and then it now shelter it back instead of speaking about it to them because they're also in an emotional state that if it was from a breakup or an argument or whatever, speak about it with somebody else that has no emotional attachment. You know what I mean? Then that no emotional attachment, no energetic attachment to it will give you clarity. Then you can readdress that issue again with a clearer mind. Same reason why journaling works so well. Take it out of your head and readdress it when you're ready.
I'm definitely an advocate for the fact that we have to get things out. We have to be able to express our emotions and open up to someone. It's why I think a psychologist for me in my own life is a good vessel for me to go through because it's an unbiased judgment that I'll be feeling from someone who I don't know other than this. I'm paying for a service basically. Like it's, it's good, but I also can open up to my mum or my friends or my siblings about certain things as well. And I don't hold anything to myself realistically, but I do feel like I hold things from certain people. And there's certain things that I don't think I let people see. And it might be because they're either A, not emotionally on my level, or I might be assuming they're not in the first place. Like I don't really know.
But not everyone's meant to receive all of your energy either. You know what I mean? We can keep facets of ourselves, call it hidden, to certain people to protect yourself. Protecting your energy, again, is not a crime. So not everyone needs to know everything. I've got a life other than breathwork and energy work. I've got a personal life. I've got my life with my kids. My kids obviously don't go anywhere on social media, hence the reason why they're never ever really seen. I've got multiple lives that I live. It's not the fact that I need to show it to everybody.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. It's almost like not everyone is equipped to be able to handle everything, but everything needs to be heard by someone.
Correct.
Yeah. I like that. That's cool. Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I wanted to definitely get into the energetic portion of this. I will come back to the mental health side of it as well. But what you mentioned the word chakras before, and that's something that I've been curious about in my life. So I put a little bit of research into it and practice in itself. But I've also noticed on your Instagram that you have, I think I'm saying it right, Kundalini or Kundalini?
Kundalini?
Kundalini. Okay, that's how you say it. But I do know that that's basically from the same tree of systematic, like it's Hinduism essentially drawn from, just like chakra belief is.
Christianity, Christians believe Kundalini is Christ consciousness.
Okay.
It's just another name for it. Call it whatever you wish.
Okay, I'll get you to just go into what it means. What I thought Kundalini meant was just a descriptive word that we've chosen to give to a belief that our energy can be tapped into. So I think, you know what? I didn't realize this, but it's almost like another way of saying the Force in Star Wars.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Kundalini is our life force energy. So our spine is our backbone, obviously, which is where our chakras are located. So the base of our spine is our root chakra. So pretty much our tailbone sort of thing, As we get up to our pelvic region is our sacral. Sort of just underneath our rib cage is our solar plexus. We've got our heart chakra, throat chakra, third eye, and crown. Again, energy. So when we've got imbalances in certain chakras, they will create differences in our life. So when we're dealing with worthiness and grief and things like that, our posture can change really quickly. So if you don't feel worthy, you're not going to be able to stand up and really be real confident and things like that. So your heart chakra, your throat chakra, because they will be semi-combined at the same point, will start to tighten up. You'll start to bring yourself in. Energetically now, your body's now closing itself in. Also brings in anxiety. Your posture and the way that we hold ourselves is a lot to do with the way that we live our life. So if you have a look at a depressed person, have you ever seen a depressed person with their chest up, feeling really good about themselves?
They got double gravity. Yeah.
Correct. They're like this. Yeah. Their energy is all really closed up and things like that because all their energy is pulling them back in.
And metaphorically speaking, because I'm going to use metaphorically to describe a lot of this, is it because they believe the chakras have now become closer together, or what is it that makes it close in? More blocked.
Yeah.
So with not allowing it to flow through the body correctly.
Correct.
Okay.
So the biggest life-changing thing in the last year, it's actually been the last 6 months, has been to find yoga. So coming back to Sydney, finding Temple of Mastery, best mate, my yogi, Darren, opened my eyes to a new world of understanding. So I do Reiki and things like that, and so I can understand energy and use it as a conduit and things. This is where it got me understanding our energetic state a hell of a lot more. So I've done basic stretching and things like that, obviously, in training and things. But I've done maybe before now 2 or 3 yoga sessions in like a commercial gym. I actually got kicked out of a yoga class because I fell over and the whole class started laughing. And it was like 10 minutes in. I didn't mean it. I just fell over. I had no balance. Anyway, so I did a yoga session, and then instantly I did a private session with Darren one-on-one. We were in first pose, moving into second pose, and I broke down and cried. I cried for like 45 minutes, an hour straight. Not out of pain, but because I allowed my body to feel the blockages, the stagnant energy that needed to move. I don't know where these emotions came from, but the second I allowed my hips to feel something and open up and feel that energy, I broke down and cried and could not stop, and it was hysterically. The more I released, the deeper I got into that pose. The more I was flexible, the more I became more supple. The more I cried, the more free I felt. So I started to learn instantly energy and working it and things like that. Since being at the temple within a couple of weeks, when I met Darren, he showed me what Kundalini was all about. I've always had a brief understanding, but seeing it firsthand is completely different. So to watch a body physically be here, but energetically not be here, and you can see the beauty in what it is doing, I wanted it. I needed it. I was like, how do I have this? And it was crazy. It was... I got it really quickly, to be quite honest. And again, not out of an ego side of things. It's just because of the work that I've done previously. So I've got years of clearing my energy. So when I was able to tap into yoga and understanding Kundalini energy, I was free, and a lot freer than most people are when they start. So I was able to activate my Kundalini energy within 2 weeks. And it's the most beautiful, beautiful feeling in any which way. I call them body orgasms. So when I'm activated and the body's doing what it needs to do, By the end of it, you'll literally hear, and your body's just gone through bliss.
Wow.
I'd rather do that 10 times a day than have to go have sex, to be quite honest. In that I haven't done that for close to 10, 11 months or whatever it's been now either, because energy is sacred. I won't give my energy to anyone. And if you're not at my level and reach those levels, I won't give it to you. But to go back on Kundalini. So the fire of purification essentially is what it is. So it's realigning our chakras so that way they sit where they need to sit so the energy runs freely. Again, the more work we do on our internal state, our external state has to change to match our internal state. So I've done all this work previously and cleared a lot of energy and stuff like this. So the moment I activated Kundalini, my energetic state changed dramatically, really, really quickly. Life changed really, really quickly. Within a 2-week process after activating, it was just before school holidays, 6 months ago, whatever it was. Picked up the kids, were going up to the property to go there to spend the week. Dogs were in the back of my truck like they always are. Got the canopy, windows were shut. Windows pop open every now and then. I pull over and close it. They've never had an issue. They actually get more scared of the sound, so they sit to the other side of the truck. For whatever reason, I've got 2 dogs. My oldest one, Boo Boo, he decided to jump out the window. Doing 110 Ks on the specific highway. He's lucky to be alive. I didn't find him. I lost him for 3 days. I had to go through a grieving process. I went through mourning. I blamed myself for everything. Everything went that could go wrong with that situation did go wrong. So we were looking for him for like 4 or 5 hours when he first jumped out. Couldn't find him anywhere. The kids were going crazy, crying, hysterical, this, that, blah, blah, blah. It was getting late, so I had to take him home. Went back the next morning on the way back to Sydney to look for him again. We spent another 5 hours, couldn't find him. Went to Sydney, stayed back at Mum's, and then got a message on Facebook because I did a few social media posts and things like that. Thank God for social media for one thing. Someone had said that they saw him on the side of the road. Next morning, I went back out to where they said they saw him. Searched for hours, couldn't find him. I lost my voice for like 2 weeks straight. Again, from the grieving process to losing him, then to the excitement saying someone's found him, to now not being able to find him again, I was up and down emotionally. Then got a phone call from a vet saying that they finally found him. Go pick him up. My world was happy again. I was full. I was so ecstatic in every which way. Picked him up, we connected, we cuddled, we cried and whatever. 15 minutes into the drive, my truck engine blew. So I was like, okay, well, there's another thing. So lost my dog, truck engine blew. Towed back to Sydney, whatever. I was like, I got my dog back. Nothing else is going to faze me in any which way. Tow truck back, got to Sydney. Dog sits there. Took him to the vet. They're like, his leg's broken. You're going to have to go do surgery. This, that, blah, 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 blah. He's 13 years old. I'm like, he's not going to be able to have any sort of life after surgery. So I'm like, we'll see how it goes in a few weeks. And me being what I do and things like that, I'm like, I'll just start doing a heap of Reiki on him, a heap of energy work, this, that, blah, 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 blah. So I started doing that. And that was a process in itself. I've actually managed to fix his leg and he's now building muscle. He lost all muscle, couldn't walk on it at all, couldn't weight bear. I was able to find where the snaps were, run enough energy through it where I was able to pop his hip back into place in 3 different spots and fix his knee. And then over the last 6 weeks, he's been able to build muscle and we can now walk around the block together.
That's insane, dude. What the fuck?
They're the first 2 issues. And this is all, mind you, within 2 weeks. So lost my dog, found my dog, truck engine blew. We found out, so we moved Dad back to Sydney because he's not doing too well health-wise. He started dialysis last year. And since being back, we found out his heart's no good either. So now going to go in for a quadruple bypass open heart surgery. So we found out that news. A couple of days later, my mum had a major car accident. She's lucky to be alive. This is all within 2 weeks of me activating my Kundalini. I was like, where the hell is all this coming from? But because I knew the fact that the shifts that we create on the inside will happen on the external. If I reacted the same way that I used to react to all this shit happening in my life, I wouldn't be able to progress. I look at it as like, oh, well, I got my dog back. Car can fix itself. It will fix itself when it fixes itself. Dad's still here. We can figure out what we need to do with his heart and his surgery and this and that and blah, blah, blah. Mum's alive, thankfully. Car's a materialistic thing. We can fix that. We can get it changed. It's like, oh, everything will be okay. It's like, and it's done instantly now. So instead of sitting and dwelling in it, you just process it. The more you clear your chakras and realign them to where they need to be, the better your life obviously gets. But using your Kundalini energy shakes up your world the same way it shakes up your body, in beautiful ways, as long as you're able to address them the way that they should, because you will need to have the awareness and the consciousness and the strength to go through the changes that it needs to go through. Again, you'll lose people out of your life. Things might shift. You might change your job or whatever, and think about why all these things are happening really quickly. It's because you've done the work internally. Life has to change for you now.
For anyone to get into this practice of Kundalini, to be able to, and you mentioned the word, I've heard it before,
Reiki.
Reiki, right? And what is the principle of Reiki? What is that practice?
So what I do, I call it Reiki on steroids, actually. So Reiki is being a conduit of energy to be able to pass energy from the divine into the person to help move stagnant energy, create free-flowing energy, move blockages and things like that.
Can I just pause on that?
Yeah,
because I have a belief system in life that everything is trying to explain the same message. So every religious text is just the same thing, washed and repeat through every individual person's interpretation of what that one thing is. I mentioned the fact that Star Wars metaphorically symbolizes the Force, which is a life force that is within the universe that certain people are easier to tap into, and once you tap into it, literal magic can happen.
That's
I
exactly
think
what it is.
that's the story of what Hinduism practice really comes down to, because when you learn to control the Force, which is your energy, by whatever word you use to describe it with, you can make magic happen. Which and to me, magic just means definitely, like the definition of magic is just the supernatural occurring. And supernatural is just anything that we don't understand through science. So when I hear magic, it just means like magic is just shit that we haven't been able to explain yet scientifically, right?
Okay.
So by tapping into this force, you're able to perform magic because we can do the things that we haven't yet got a scientific explanation for.
100%.
And chakraism in itself, I believe, has been adopted through so many cultures throughout the world, sometimes with the same language, but sometimes through different descriptive words. Like, say, even in Naruto and Japanese anime, they use the chakra with like their inner abilities to be able to perform things that have never been able to be performed.
The monks use. It's like you're trying to explain. It's a different way of explaining it from different people, their perceptions of things. As you say, the Hindu side of things, it's Kundalini. If you go to a Christian, it's Christ consciousness.
It's also prayer in manifestation. It's also asking you shall believe into journal. It's,
Definitely. So where you are limitless, because we are limitless, the more I've been able to tap into this power and ability that we all have. It's not to say that I can do this and you can't, but the more I'm able to tap into it and listen to it, the more I'm able to facilitate with it and understand it a hell of a lot more. So to understand energy and Reiki, you can clap your hands, rub them together, and slowly pull them apart. And if you were to focus, you'll be able to feel the energy field in between your fingers.
I remember that game in school where you'd hold your hands and pull them apart, and then if someone else was to do it, it's harder now.
Correct.
Yeah.
So now think of that on an amplified state. So instead of you holding it just here, so when I meditate and things like that, I'll build energy balls and build them that big that I can flow them into my body and rush my body with energy. One, it will clear the stagnant energy that is there. will help activate my Kundalini, but it also puts me into a different subconscious state. So when not all the time, if I'm using my meditation to do certain things and stuff like that, I can tap into different timelines. I can understand thoughts that are not mine anymore, and all those certain things. But when it comes to an energetic thing, the feeling that you can feel between your fingers as a Reiki facilitator, and as I say, Reiki on steroids sort of thing, I can literally move your energy from here as long as you allow it to happen. If you're willing to receive energy and open to receive the energy, I can do it over a Zoom call. It's not impossible. Energy is everywhere. So you just take the energy from around you, what's inside of you, figure out where it's not moving, and understand how you can move it.
It's so dope, man. I've had this mindset, to be honest, pretty much my entire life, because little things and a lot of, to be honest, bad psychedelic experiences, or good psychedelic experiences, kind of re-illustrated the concept to me, where almost like every movie ever being played out, every song ever being sung about, every story ever being told is just me in a different metaphorical example. So I kind of see life in that exact same circumstance, where it's almost like Neo from the Matrix. It's like every individual person is Neo, you know, and Neo, if you rearrange the words, it does
exactly
spell one.
what it is.
You know, it's the one. It's us. We are only us. We are one, experiencing everything. So
Your realizations to what you've just said is exactly what life is.
Yeah.
We are all experiencing the exact same thing at a different level, at a different state of consciousness and awareness. So why not be really kind to everybody? Because if you're not, then you're not being kind to yourself, really. At a different level, where different timeline, a different life that we're all coexisting in this one, that person needed you. You needed you. Why won't you help the person that needed you?
I know this is real weird, and it's almost like, it's hard to admit it, but I find it to be true. Like, I've met people in my life, and I used to experience this a lot when I was tripping a lot as well and indulging in all sorts of psychedelics. But it's almost like when I'd meet some people, it's like, I felt like I've been that person already. It's like there were certain people where it's like, oh, I've been you. And then there's other people where it's like, oh, I haven't, you know? And it's like, it can only be described by a feeling. It's not like I have any proof and evidence behind it, but I don't know.
Energy doesn't lie. So that person that you've understood and felt like you've been before is a past life of you. You've gone through that. Now, how can you help that person understand what they're going through, because you've already done it?
And to be honest, I practice that with those people. Like,
Definitely.
I actually get a weird feeling sometimes when I need to message people, and I do, and I just happen to know, and I'll use the biblical expression of, like, it was a message from God to me to have this idea to be able to tell this person what needs to be said, and then they'll reply like, dude, you have no idea how much I need to hear that. And it'd be like after a year of not speaking to that person, and it's just because
Listen to yourself.
I'm just listening, bro. I'm feeling what that feeling is. And the chakra meditation is my favorite part of it, because I've experimented with it. I haven't dived with it, but I think it's a good place for a lot of people who are at least curious. If people aren't interested and they think everything that we're saying is hippie and wacky, then it's like they're not ready.
They're just not ready to receive it. That's all it is.
Yeah, and I've got no answers. I'm just a vessel for information. I'm trying to take it in. But when I was curious about chakraism, I think the word is
Just chakras.
chakras. Yeah, I first learned that, like, the red is the root, and then I think it was the shaken orange, and then it was a yellow something like a
Solar plexus.
Solar plexus. So that's just pretty much as far as I could be able to recall. But I practice a meditative routine of, like, whether it be once or twice a week. I'd actually go out. I was probably about 19 or 20 at the time, but I'd go out with a big rug. I'd try and get somewhere nice and comfortable outside, and I'd put on this, like, chakra meditative mantra, I guess you call it. And I would almost, like, try and focus my mind to something easy, like in, out, in, out. Now when I meditate, I'll try and think of something like, I'm cool, I'm safe, I'm cool, I'm safe. Something simple, right? But then I just focus on whatever that picture of is, of the humanoid figure with the red, the orange, the yellow. And I would imagine that red chakra as I would practice this stillness. And one day I actually felt this hot red ball in the bottom of my back, like around my ass. And I felt it for the entire rest of the time I was meditating. And I set a timer for like 15 minutes. So when the timer went off, I kind of, like, came out of it. And, like, I don't remember how long it felt like before that feeling went away, but it was something that I was never able to achieve ever again. I think because I don't know why, but it's almost like maybe I felt like, oh, I've done it. I've achieved it. Done, you know? And it's like, I've never really gone back into the practice of it before, but based on my own experience, proves to me that it's real. There's some realness behind everything.
100%. So you felt the energy build in your base chakra, your root chakra. That's where Kundalini energy starts. So when we drop in and things like that, I will build and focus all my energy in my root chakra. And then as we do so, I can move it up into the next point. And then once you get it to a certain strength and you're able to control the energy, you can move it to where you need it to be. So if you're feeling really blocked and tight through your sacral, then you can keep the energy there. If you need to work a little bit more into your root chakra, then you push it back down and you'll be able to open up your root chakra more. Depending on, now it's going to go spastic for a bit. Yeah, so again, the more you use it, the more you understand it and things like that, the stronger it gets, the more you can actually talk to it. So if I'm struggling to find answers for certain things, or if I'm putting programs and things like that together, and I feel stuck, I will ask my body. Your body will tell you everything, to be quite honest. We just have to be still and quiet enough to be able to listen.
And what do you think it is? I've got to be honest, bro, because like, that feeling that I experienced, do you relate to it? Do you understand what I meant when I said I felt that red hot ball that was inside of my body?
It's happening right now.
Yeah, I'm guessing so, you know? And obviously you're able to feel it almost inductively whenever you want to be able to feel it. And how can anyone learn to do it? What's the first step?
Clear your energy in yoga. Do the work. I don't put things simply with anything that I do. I don't like to sugarcoat anything. Do the work. Clear your energy. Tap into the shit that's holding you back. Release the pains, the traumas, and any negative energy that is there to create space, freedom, liberation within your body. Because the more you do that, the more you'll be able to access all of this. As I say, I can ask my body if it's right or wrong. If it's right, my spine will activate and my body will tell me that it's okay. If it's not meant to be and I ask the question, I'll literally just stay still. My spine won't do shit. The more we trust ourselves and listen to our intuition and our body, the body will tell you everything. There's a book, if you want to look into it, The Body Holds the Score. And it will make you understand this on a hell of a lot better level. We are the most intelligent thing in beings, in whatever you want to call ourselves, in this world. We just dumb ourselves down in so many ways. If we were to learn to listen to our own power, strengths, and abilities, we are literally limitless. We've got the power to do everything and anything. It's crazy. And as you said before, like, it might sound crazy to some people and things like that. I've learnt really not to care, because the crazier I sound, I know that I'm more in my truth. I wasn't here to fit in. I was here to stand out. And you can't stand out if you're talking the same like everyone else does.
And I say it's crazy, and I know it's crazy too, because I know what it's like to not understand it. And I only know it from the simplest version of experience I have in doing so. But the only way I was able to ever experience what that feeling of the Kundalini was because I was open to the idea of it being possible in the first place. And it's like, I hate sounding like a Bible basher, but like, I tell people the same thing when it comes to God as well. It's like, it's not really a thing to do with me if someone believes in God or not. And in fact, I don't even think it's a problem to do with God. Like, God doesn't need anyone to believe in it. Exactly. Like, people need God to believe in. So I just want people to at least be curious, to make their own decisions before having that bias initial reaction to being like, nah, it's stupid. I don't understand. I don't want to be able to understand.
If you're open to receive, you'll have the information given to you.
Yeah,
plain and simple.
And it will come instantly almost. You know?
When you're open and ready to have anything in life, life will give it to you. If you're closed and not ready to receive, or have restrictions and limitations within your own thoughts, feelings, and belief systems, then life won't give you what you ask for, because you're not ready to receive it. So if you're open to receive, especially energy, you can feel it. Believe me, like, people that have not understood it at all, I've been able to tap in very quickly just because of their curious state that they were in, watching me do it to somebody else that is open to receive, just being curious to understand, and then be like, okay, well, do whatever you got to do. So literally play around with their energy and then make a grown man cry within 30 seconds.
Insane, man. It's just crazy. But like, you know what I find the most beautiful part about it is, and it's the same thing I'm always thinking about as well, is it's free will. It's the availability to know that we're gods, you know, and yes, we are the most intelligent living creatures on this planet, but as far as I can see, and I believe, we are so far the only intelligent life in our observable universe. We haven't got a display of obvious information that, like, yeah, there's life out there too. So that tells me so far that, from what I know, we're the most intelligent creatures in the universe. And if we are just this ancestral code of DNA passed through generations of people holding on to not just physical biological symptoms like blue eyes or brown hair or skin tone and color, but also emotional reactions to our environment and feelings we've felt, then we are really the universe experiencing itself. We are a individual level of what it's like to be the entire existence at once, but just dumbed down and deciphered and filtered with a human experience of, like, you know, illusion.
We are the universe in a physical body.
Yeah.
That's all we are.
Yeah. And I wouldn't want it any other way. And it's that free will part that I love, where it's like you said that when someone was just open to the idea of it being right, or whether someone's on a Zoom call and they're going to allow the transfer of energy and information, that is what allows that thing to happen. It becomes a very freaky thing that I almost want to run away from, the thought of the fact that people could just do it to control other people.
And people do.
Which is probably a very likely situation, but it definitely wouldn't come from a self-benefiting tool longevity-wise, I believe, because you are now a thief or a taker, and it's quite obvious that these are a consequence to bad things later on. You know? Definitely. And I think prison's a good example. It's where you do something wrong, you're going to go to jail. And I use a lot of examples like you're an apprentice where you want to absorb information, and then by the time you become tradesman, you are now given the environment to which you now have to use your information, whether it be to do jobs on your own, also to teach others. But I think that we've just taken a systematic example of what that metaphorically means to where in life, when you're open to new information, the world's going to present you now challenges or obstacles or situations in which you have to now use that, you know?
Correct. 100%.
And it's very interesting, dude. Like it's honestly, I've got to be real, it's too much information for my brain to be able to take in.
It usually is for most people.
Yeah.
And that's why when trying to explain things to people, I can only really drip feed it to them, because taking it to another level, you can literally crush somebody's existence and their life and explain to them that everything that they've lived, however long they've lived for, is a complete lie as well to certain things and facets of life.
Well, the ego death realistically is something that not everyone can go through.
Most people won't be able to ever deal with it, to be quite honest. I've had multiple, and I look for the next one, because if I've got rid of another old version of myself, it just means I'm able to go towards the higher version of myself. But being able to and open to receive is the biggest thing. Getting into this space, you get a lot of people that's like, oh yeah, I want to be able to do this or do that, or you get other facilitators that actually come in to work in with you, not as a good thing sometimes. Like you were using metaphors as such. You got energy vampires. We use a metaphor in this sense. They will suck your energy and use your energy, and their detriment is the fact that they have to now live forever with this curse. You know what I mean? Pain and traumas and things like this, because they'll never be able to heal from it. The only way they continue their life is by taking life of others. The way that we energetically get better is by clearing our energy, being free, being light, being abundant.
An offering from our cup. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, it's awesome. You mentioned a point before that I also want to be able to get to before we have to wrap up the podcast too. And I'm not trying to wrap it up just now, but 9D was a good word to start with. And from what I understand, 9-dimensional, I think it's terminology for, like a abbreviation for, is just a overall sensus environment. So I'm pretty sure the Oculus Rift is basically like a 9D experience when you include headphones and environment and things
100%.
like this. On that conversation we were talking about it before, you mentioned words like vibrations and frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I'm curious, what do you think they relate to the whole Kundalini experience, or is it a whole different practice that you've accumulated two things together? Or do they relate? Like,
so they're separate things. They will work hand in hand together. The 9D breath work with the frequencies and vibrations and binaural beats, I should say, more so than anything. There's lots of new studies that have come out that if you can use certain resonant harmonies and vibrations and frequencies, you can cure cancers and things, and you can get rid of lots of sicknesses. Go sleep on top of a beehive and you will have no issue within your body after a certain amount of time. So yeah, they all work very, very hand in hand. To feel the energy through Kundalini comes from being a lot more clear. The more work we've done and created less blockages within our body, we'll be able to feel that a hell of a lot more. If you haven't done any internal work and you're still dealing with a lot of pain and suffering and things like that, I definitely wouldn't be advising even thinking about Kundalini, because it will shake your world up, literally.
yeah.
But then also you'll have to deal with all that pain and suffering very, very quickly. And if you're not energetically strong enough to deal and cope with a lot of things all at once, it can crumble your life. It can break you down. It can cause depression and things like that. It can lead the opposite way. You need to be ready to be able to do these certain things. Start small. Basic breath work. Start with yoga. Start with just basic meditation. The more you're able to understand and listen to your body, life will give you the next step. It will show you where you're meant to be and when it's ready for you to be able to receive it.
I think a lot of people want to try and skip to the end game. I'm definitely one of those people. I see a challenge. I see a position in which someone's living their life, and I'm like, how quick can I get there? You know, like what shortcuts can I use to get there as fast as possible? And I find that realistically most of the time I can't. If I want to set myself a challenge to be able to run a marathon, it's actually more beneficial for me to be able to work my way up there than it is to wake up the next day and do it. Because for starters, then I have to face the consequences of doing such a stupid thing, because I won't be able to walk for 4 days after, you know?
Definitely.
And to dive something into the depth of which you're going to try and manipulate energy and understand yourself, to strip yourself down to an ego death and things like this, it's not only that you're not going to be able to handle it, I believe you have no XP when it comes to the situations life's going to present to you. If you are open to any idea, as soon as you do and tell someone else about it, you feel judgment from them. You feel, for a lot of people, are going to curse you out or call you stupid or cut you out of their life. And that's the first step. That's your first test that life's presenting you with. And I've experienced that when I first dove into Christianity at like 13 or 14 years old. I told some people about it and they were like, I remember one person exactly was like, I'm not going to talk to you ever again. And it was like a nice, to be honest, little reality check of like, some people aren't destined for this way of thinking. I might be right, I might be wrong, but either way, like, he's not on my level, you know? Like, I'm not better than him or worse than him. He's just not with me anymore.
100%.
And if I was to instantly go as deep as to be like one of those people that would just go on day one, go around and start knocking on doors and preaching every word, trying to read the Bible to people when I haven't learned anything inside of it, I'm just going to cut the whole world out without building myself a community first.
Definitely.
You know?
And that's what a lot of this last 5-6 years has been for me as well. Where you say wanting the end result the quickest, I still try to do. And I've had to still learn and continue to remind myself that you've got to be in the process. We've got to be in the present. The end result is the end result. You're going to get there any which way. Enjoy the journey in between, because that's where the lessons come. So taking things and forgetting the end result and being really present with the moments is where we really need to be and understand.
I definitely want to come back to this in a minute because I want to go off that, but I was trying to get at before and I forgot, I got sidetracked, was the frequency side of it as well. Now, I'm glad that there is more studies coming out that by inducing certain sounds and harmonics, it can help heal things that are wrong within inside of people. I didn't know that to be true, but I know that they do use it for a lot of stress relief, and they use it for a lot of like PTSD, and they do use it for a lot of these studies as well. I also want to know what you think. Some people believe, and I think it's a 616 frequency, or there's some kind of like, there's certain frequencies that people believe that are more, if you're going to look at life like it's a different level of reality, or I think they say realities, where you have like multiple stages you can exist within your spiritual plane, then some of them are more demonic, some of them are more evil. Certain frequencies are out there to drag people down as
100%.
opposed to lift people up. Do you believe that to be true?
Definitely. So, which is all about mainstream media and things like that in many different ways. So, if, again, fear is one of the biggest things that controls everything. Have a look at the news. It's all fear mongering. It's just there to make you scared and worry about the next thing that's coming, where you don't focus on what's actually here. So, where we're able to focus on energies and frequencies and things like that, certain frequencies will tap into different chakras, will be able to get you into different states. Where it comes to, I guess, the social media and the music side of things like that, if you actually have a look at the frequencies, and I don't know them, what they are specifically, but they are there to bring your energy down. They're there to tap into you, to suck your energy, not to raise your vibration. It's there to lower your vibration. Have a look at all the music now. It's all about fuck this, fuck that, drugs, party, alcohol. It's lowering your vibration.
Yeah.
They promote alcohol and things like this that lower your vibration. When do they ever tell you to go sit in the sun? Because that raises your vibration. When do they tell you to meditate? It raises your vibration. It makes you feel better. When do they tell you to go eat organic food? But they'll promote everything in a cereal box or packaged foods and things like, because it lowers your vibration. Again, whatever we put into our system is where our body energetically will be. What we put in is what we get out, plain and simple.
It's interesting, and I'm not very educated on it as well. I just know it exists through certain people's words that I've heard them speak online about. But like rap music in itself, when it is a bit more about the, I'm going to say demonistic or devilish or indulgences of, you know, bad shit, realistically, they do find that they are running on that. I think it's the 616. I'm just going to say it's the 616 frequency, right? Because I'm pretty sure it's that. But then when you find those videos that make you feel good when you watch them, they might be like a harmonic, like hallelujah type song off those videos and make you like cry. They take that frequency out, and that's actually a frequency that actually reacts, makes your body reactively respond emotionally.
Emotional state.
You know, that's science, man. I can't even deny that that's not true.
So taking that to another level, it's the reason why they got rid of all the bells and things like that in China and Hong Kong, because every time they ring those bells, that resonant frequency used to heal everybody in the town.
And I believe that, because that's why they have them for churches. That's why they have them for all these places. Like the Big Ben, I think they have a name for Big Ben. I'm pretty sure that used to have a big bell on it or something like that.
And they took all the bells away.
Yeah, and it's almost scary in a way, man. And it's like, I'm glad that people are out there trying to do more for themselves and then using that to do more for others, like having social media and being vulnerable enough to have conversations and things like this. Because I think what is actually happening in this world is there's a battle between good and evil, and we are all just vessels unaware of what's being taken place. There's a constant war happening, whether you call it yin yang or whether you call it heaven and hell or whatever you want to call it. There is God, there is Lucifer, there is angels, there is demons, there's one certain belief that one of my mate Adam told me about. I can't remember what it is, but they believe that when you die, based on the life you've lived, you join one side of the force, the light or the dark, and then you're now adding to that pool of consciousness in a way, you know.
You can look at it in many different ways. So if you look into like reincarnation and things like that, we live multiple lives and we have to relive lives until we clear all the energy that needs to be cleared. So whether or not you want to think of it in one way or another really makes no difference. We live in heaven on earth. We create heaven or we create hell. Again, co-creators, you know what I mean? You are where you want to be. If you want to look at life as beautiful and bliss and abundant, then life is going to be beautiful, bliss and abundant. If you look at it with a negative eyes and and all of the things that can pull you down, then that's exactly what it's going to be. You can create heaven on earth, or you can create hell on earth. You are your co-creator.
I'm curious what you think of this question too. Then, do you have a belief in what's going to take place after our life on this existence ends? Like, say what we know it to be, like we die, our time is up. Do you have a belief system in what is next?
Depending on, guess on how much work you've done, to be quite honest. I believe.
Is that almost like the Buddhism practice of enlightenment, like belief system?
Yeah, I guess it's my belief system.
Yeah.
Again, life is a revolving door, so we will have to go through the same lessons over and over and over until we clear them all. So if we don't do it in this lifetime, we'll do it in another lifetime. That next lifetime should hopefully be a little bit easier. That next time after that will be a little bit easier, until you get to the point where you're completely clear and light and flowy and everything else, and that's our light body. That's where we end up in the skies, and that's, I guess if you want to call it heaven, that's where you'll be in heaven at the highest frequency as white light.
I think that a word that has been used a lot lately, and I couldn't remember it on my last episode, but I just had it again, but I lost it again. It was like, man, I hope I remember that word. Every time I think of it, it flees.
Disappears, yeah.
It's like, it's one of those words that's so rare, but it's so resonating. It's gone. I hope one of these episodes I'll get it back.
It'll come to you.
These episodes I'll get it back. But it's basically that divine white light that eventually everyone's going to get towards. And it adopts a lot of ancient belief systems like reincarnation and learning lessons over again and living someone else's life. And some people believe, and I don't know if I might believe it, who knows, but it's like, God, that whatever that is loud, isn't it?
It is just yeah.
It's like they believe that we'll have to live every possible existence and we'll have to share every possible world and realm and things like this. Yep. And then eventually, once everyone's come together at one, there is one white light. And I can't wait till I remember what that word is, but it's a nice philosophy. And I think it's what Buddha was trying to get at, and that's what a lot of Buddhism practices revolve around, that we will continue to live again, and your decisions and actions are going to cause you to be in better or worse existences. And I think he believed there was a minimum of 7 times before you can reach enlightenment, and I personally think that's just a humanistic touch.
7 chakras.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that too.
Because you got to clear every chakra.
That's cool. I never thought about that too.
And that's really where it all comes down to. So you will keep reliving the same lesson until it's all clear. Until you get to your highest state and frequency and vibration, which is white light, which is what I use to protect myself with and things like that. It's what I use to bring in divine energy and things like that. It's the highest state of consciousness. It's the divine energy.
It's awesome, man. And to be honest, I feel like I could go into it with you for fucking
hours.
Honestly,
10 I can talk for hours.
10 hours at minimum, because it's so nice to be able to feel like you can relate to someone with. For me personally, it's a lot of hippie bullshit. Like, that's the way I terminize it, but I believe it. You know, it's like it's nice to be able to know that I'm not single-handedly experiencing these thoughts. You know, that they are shared amongst others as well. For anyone who is sorry, you were about to say something?
I was just going to say, collectively, we're all waking up and understanding a hell of a lot more, which is why a lot of people are going through these shifts and understanding a lot more at the moment, which is why, again, this space is becoming a lot more popular, if you want to put it that way, because people are realizing that they've got the power. They can do what they need to do within themselves, and they don't need an external source to make them feel better.
Yeah. I once was playing on this idea. I think it was during this process since episode 1 till now, that I thought, isn't it so weird that like every time I start to think of something new, it's like everyone else starts to think that as well. And I didn't mean it from a place of like, I'm the trendsetter. I just mean like, isn't it interesting that like so many people are now adopting the same mentality at the same time? But what I realized was I was just stepping up into a new level of thinking that so many people were already in when it came to it, which is like that realm or plane or, you know, and then once I would step, it doesn't have to be up, it could be sideways into another realm, but so many other people are sharing that
different
thought.
levels of existence.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious. I don't know if I'll ever figure out all these answers, but I wonder if everyone's just going to go through them, and it's almost like it's in my control, but not. Like life's just putting me through my turn to go through it, you know?
You can only control you, and that's the truth. And like what we were saying before, the more work we do for us and internally, gives permission and safety for others to do it for themselves, which every other version of yourself is everyone that you can see.
I feel like the only biggest lesson I've learned so far is that whatever it is that you choose to dive into thought-wise, whether it be shared community aspect of belief system or interest or hobbies or work or career, whatever it is, if you stay in it and you're in it and you dedicate yourself to it, you'll become great at it, you know, and then you can replicate that greatness into another way of thinking and be easily, like you explained with your previous experiences, to now go into Kundalini and be like, it's easy for you to pick it up because you've put mastery into things like bodybuilding and mastery into things like healing and breath work. And now when you transition, you've got the building blocks and the steps and you understand the principles to be able to learn something new to another great level.
That's exactly right.
And me in my life personally, it's hard to pick what it is that I want to be great at. I feel like I'm so far been living my life as a open book for information to gather and learn against from all realms of existence. And it's not that I haven't found anything that I want to become great at yet, but I'm just so curious as to what else is existing. What other niche windows of creative expression when it comes to beats per minute, or what other painting techniques are there to learn, or what other clothing brands are there to be designed based on what cultural impact they'll have over there. Like,
Why limit yourself to one?
yeah, it's a tricky road because obviously everyone wants to be great at something. We want to be able to master a technique, but it's
Why
like
not be master of all?
that's
Great
what I'm
at
kind
all?
of thinking. I'm kind of thinking maybe I'd like to be able to master having a little bit of knowledge in all forms of endeavor, you know?
The way I've always looked at life is there's always something to learn in everything. So if I can know a little bit about everything, then I know a little bit more than everyone else does.
Yeah.
So I'll listen and act like the dumbest person to everyone that I listen to, because no matter how they explain things, I can understand it in a different way. Or they might have a different perception of the same thing that I'm understanding and realizing and things like that. But just the way that they've explained it may resonate a little bit better for you. I'm always the biggest student. The best teacher is always going to be a forever student.
Yeah.
I can't stop learning, and I want to learn as much as I can with every moment of every day. Whether or not it's the information that the world gives me, learning more about my internal state or energy that I can be able to facilitate with others. It's constant battles with ourselves and constant upgrades.
It is a constant battle with ourselves in it, because a life student is a hard thing to grasp. And you can also be a mentor and a teacher in the same breath, but to be a forever student of life is almost the only way you can possibly be a master or a mentor, because infinite information, I think, is a term people use now, and that's that no matter what it is that you choose to think or learn about, you can never stop learning about that one thing. And that, to me, is a belief in a higher power. Like, that's, no matter how far you zoom in, there's always going to be something there. No matter how far you look out, the universe expands. Like, no matter how deep you feel, you can always feel worse, or how good you feel, you can always feel better.
100%.
Like, it's infinite information, man. That's so magical, realistically.
And we are infinite beings, and our energy is infinite, and everything that we are able to create is infinite, and the only limitations we have are the ones that we put upon ourselves.
Yeah. Man, sick. If anyone who is curious and they want to learn this information through you as a mentor, or even just ask for advice, like, where is it that your classes are being taken place and your breath work and things like this? Where can people find you?
So I do most of my work out at Temple of Mastery, which is in Kingsgrove. So I've got a space there, run my events out of that. Social media wise, my business platform is Air It Out Breathwork, but my personal page is the.alpha.era. Always happy for questions and things like that. The more curiosity you have, the more I'm able to teach you, give you, and help you, guide you through the process of understanding who you are again.
That's sick. I'm definitely going to put a link, I always do, to everyone who's come on the podcast below in the description. So everyone, just don't be shy to go down there and click on that. But again, I don't want to have to wrap it up. I want to keep finding more points to go down, but we're going to have to save a lot of them for another episode in the future.
Look forward to it.
But I have a final question I do like to ask every single guest. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious to what answers can possibly arrive from the question. It seems to always be a different answer. So if someone did come to you because they were feeling depressed, mostly because they were lost, what advice would you give to that person?
Look within. Sit with it, feel it, embrace it, and release it. The more we can feel, the more we can heal. That's plain and simple. Don't be afraid to step into the unknown, because it's the unknown that will teach you and show you where you need to be.
I love that answer. And to be honest, usually I use it to wrap up a podcast, but to sit in it and feel it is something that I've been trying to play on the idea of for, let's just call it 4, 5, 6 months, something like that, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, personal life experiences of what led me to think it, but the idea of feeling something is something that I'm trying to battle with, where I don't know how much power do I give myself to be able to feel what it is that I need to feel. Like, I understand that it's okay to feel what we feel, but how much should we dive into it? How long should we sit in that feeling for before we decide, like I do personally in my life, I'm too busy and I just get to work, and then
Then you suppress it again and create another layer. You feel it and sit with it until you don't have to feel it and sit with it anymore. It will disappear. Whether or not you need to cry that emotion out, shake that emotion out, you could dance or whatever, go jump on a trampoline. You might need to scream. Go grab a pillow and open up your throat chakra and scream and let out all the frustrations in your body. And then sit with it again and see if it's still there. It's like I was saying to you before. Mentally, we're doing things on one level. Physically, we need to do things on another level. We can understand the emotion. We need to release the emotion as well.
I guess I never really put into practice anything to do with trying to physically release something. And when I say I, yes, in a way, suppress my feelings when I'm not happy with the way I am thinking, and I've got shit to do, I don't have time to think about this. Like, I've got to be productive instead. Yep. I feel like it's a pretty normalistic trait that a lot of people can relate to. But I do like to talk about it. I do like to tell people about it.
100%.
I do like to, obviously I face the same feelings a lot of people have, where you don't want to overburden certain people. So for me, a psychologist is a good idea, because I no longer have that, like, this is your problem now, dude. You can deal with it with me, because I paid for it.
Accountability works very well. Where you're saying that you're able to just be busy and not deal with it, they're trauma and coping mechanisms. That's all it is. You're not willing to, or comfortable enough to step into that emotion a little bit more, because it's going to bring something up for you that you don't want to feel.
Oh, that's 100%. I agree. It is that. And I'm not saying it's a right. I'm just open to the idea of what's the best way to deal with that situation. Like,
sit with it and get it released, or find someone that can help you understand why it's blocked, where it's blocked from, and how to get it released from your body.
Because it is an interesting thing, man. Like, it's something that isn't talked about. It's something that, as a societal whole, it's not part of our schooling education. It's not part of our upbringing. It's not part of our media. It's not part of our life to know what to do.
If they were to teach this, then they can't teach anything that they do in schools. They can't teach anything that they want you to do in life. This is ultimate being. This is ultimate energy. This is all your answers and powers and gifts and everything in one, is understanding yourself. After this, I'll give you a little bit of a taste and understanding of what energy feels like, and how you can move it and play around with it. And it will blow your mind again, and it will open you up to understanding and maybe diving into releasing a little bit more. Again, psychologists and things like that, we can process and understand it emotionally on one level. Energetically, our body's still going to hold on to it unless we release it. We need to be able to release what we feel in one way or another. It needs to be released, so that way the body doesn't hold on to it anymore.
Gotta be honest, I'm freaking out when it comes to what we're going to experiment with, but I'm going to do it. For everyone curious, let me know. But realistically, it is a scary thing to dive down, and it's because, if I'm going to be honest, it is a suppression of information that I choose to do. I choose to let myself feel sometimes when things suck, sometimes when things hurt, sometimes when it's not an idealistic reality that I wanted to be feeling. But other times in my life, which is why I asked the question, I noticed that I'm fixated on things that I wouldn't usually want, like I wouldn't expect myself to be thinking. It's almost not a surprise, but it's almost like, I thought I was past that. I thought that wouldn't affect me by now. But then let's just call it trigger warning. Triggers come up. I think that's a good word for it, triggers. And it makes me in general like, I should be past this, ignore it. because it's like, oh, I've done my healing. I've
suppressed that again.
I've sat in my bullshit. I've thought about it. I've felt it. I dove deep. I felt like shit. I had to climb back out.
We tell ourselves a lot of the times that we've dealt with it just so we don't have to feel it anymore. But energetically, our body is holding on to it again, which is the reason why you're triggered by it, and it comes back up in one way or another to show itself, so that way you can deal with it, present it, and release it.
All right. Well, I did say, and for everyone listening, cameras have died as per usual, but I did say we'd reached the end of the episode. You know, I really appreciate the answer you gave me at the end, dude, and I really appreciate the entire podcast you've given me so far. It's definitely been enlightening, to say the least, when it comes to the word. You know, like, it's been educational. It's been and I knew it was going to get deep and spiritual, but I didn't expect to be able to understand it as well as you have, and so I think it's a good trait to be able to. And I think intelligence in itself, it doesn't just mean your availability to learn information, but to be able to articulate it into a conversation so someone else can understand is actually what intelligence is. So you're an intelligent being, my friend.
Thank you. On that, I found it hard to learn growing up. So I just like to relay the information as simply as I can. So layman's terms, as I like to put it, even a kid can understand what's going on. My kids listen to me and take on everything that I say, and literally can tell you the same lessons and shit. So,
wow.
I'll just talk the way I want to relay information is, as long as my kids can understand it, anyone can understand it.
Damn, okay, cool. So I'm not even this higher conscious being of like absorbing, I'm like a child.
No, it's just so that way we can all understand it at the same time.
I get you. No, man, it's been a pleasure. It's been awesome to sit down with you. I definitely want to go into another episode in the future with
100%.
you. The whole fatherhood experience and that journey of life that I haven't stepped into is something that I was kind of expecting I would dive into in this conversation, but I didn't. But it just leaves room for a part 2.
100%, part 2 coming.
Yeah, gang. Well, thank you very much, man.
Thank you. Just thank you for holding space and having this space here to be able to openly express raw, authentically, and purely with everything that needs to be done, and having a space for people to listen to and understand as well. So thank you.
No, thank you. And thank you to everyone else who has made it to the end of the episode. Thank you for coming along for this week. It was an amazing episode this week. There'll be another one next week. That's a wrap.
Shawty catch a vibe, yeah, I had to put her on. Bought a 2-seater, yeah, we heading for the sun. Shawty going high, I ain't tripping for the funds. Yeah, I won't start, I ain't tripping, I'm a stunt.